I think in M&A we are used to try and deliver in a very short time a sort of very dense product. So that's what we'll try to do here and recover some of the time that we have used this morning. I am an M&A lawyer, and I worked on a fairly significant number of deals over time in, I would say, many business sectors in different markets, assisting different type of clients, corporations, investors, PE funds. But I'm not truly an expert in your business. I'm not an expert in shipping. And perhaps, with a few hopefully notable exceptions, I'm not an expert in any or most of the business sectors in which I was involved because of those deals. I often compare M&A lawyers to surgeons. A surgeon does not necessarily know much or is not a specialist about the disease that has brought a specific patient before him, but he has a target, and he knows, or hopefully he knows, how to get there. And what they say in the States, don't know about it, but know how to do it. So when Francesco asked me to take part to this session, I wasn't entirely sure at the beginning what I could contribute to the forum and the discussion in such a knowledgeable, experienced and sophisticated audience. Then I think the thought was that perhaps a different angle, which is just broader, wider angle of perspective, which cuts across different business sectors, could in fact have some interest. And if it's true, as many believe, that well, M&A is ultimately a derivative of trading, commerce. And this morning I heard someone mentioning that sort of 90% of the world trading is actually moved around by shipping. Then perhaps yes, the answer is yes, that could be of interest. So what I'll try to do is just give some flash and a sort of quick look at what we have seen happening in the sort of M&A context globally. For sure, and we heard this morning, I'm sure we'll hear more about that, this conference, your conference, comes at very distinct moment in time, and there's no doubt about that. The general situation is impacting this business, but any business I think that is probably difficult to find, which is peculiar really. But it's difficult to find a business sector that is not somehow affected directly or indirectly, but that's the reality. And I think what we all see that. We've seen a decreased level, as the chairman just mentioned, decreased level in M&A activity globally. I think my fellow speakers will provide you more details and more data and information on that. But the feeling is that, well, the feeling we have is that although, as I said, is a global impact, that is sort of kind of uneven. and even through different areas of business. And we had the feeling that some sectors are sort of really suffering, some other are hesitant, other are a bit more sort of resilient, and some are still quite active, maybe with changed features, but are still active. And of course, from our perspective, shipping and the areas, the businesses that are connected somehow with shipping are very important because it's such a large business, part of the world business. And so I was kind of curious and tried to get some information. And you know what we lawyers do in those situations, we try to get the information that someone else put together. So we go through reports and the data information that is being sort of distributed. And we know that some of that information are not and cannot be extremely accurate. And the way we tend to cut business sectors, again, tends to be a bit rough. So when we look at shipping, the information we get is generally information about what we call shipping, transportation, and logistics. And, you know, we understand, we accept that that probably includes a lot of things that are sort of on the borderline, and maybe they don't include other sides of business that can be significant. But still though rough, we think those data give some sense, some feeling of the levels of activities of what, well, from our perspective, our potential clients, customers are doing, how they are moving. So I got some of those reports and got in particularly one, and I think over the last 12 months that report was listing around 150, it's a bit rough figure, but about 150 deals in these business sectors worldwide. So from October 2010 to October 2011. What I didn't do was sort of go and compare those data with previous year's information, and then, you know, accept it's likely to show that there's a reduction, but still I think that is an interesting piece of information. 150 deals is not insignificant, I would say, and that I took some notes. I think was about 40% of those are in the, let's say, in the East, from sort of Middle East, India, and over through China to Australia. There's a 25% roughly sort of US, America, and about 35% has directly or indirectly got to do with European companies, European businesses or firms. Again, maybe that's less than before, but it is a significant level of activity. And it somehow surprised me because considering the general feeling and what we read every day, you know, about the difficulties, the crises, the financial market difficulties, I would have thought that, well, I don't know, the world had slowed down more. But that's true, and actually those are real deals, and they are not insignificant deals. As you know, I went through the list, but they are all of a decent size. So what else do we see? What else do we see? I've tried to talk to people, talk to my fellow partners in the firm around the globe, literally, and different markets. And what we feel is that there are common features. And well, will I surprise you with that? No surprise. The common feature, sort of major common feature, is that deals are more difficult. No surprise. Okay. The three features that I think I've tried to identify and to take out of these conversations is that they are difficult for sort of three main reasons. One is that opportunities have more difficulty with arising. It's more difficult for opportunities to sort of to pierce the veil of this situation, this sort of fog that is sort of covering businesses globally. The other one, which is very important, is seeing the other side for a potential purchaser, potential buyers. I think it's more difficult to get visibility. Of course, the potential buyers, beyond assessing and seeing what is a business is doing and how is done in the past and how it's currently doing, then of course it needs to understand perspective, is looking forward. And scarce visibility, forward-looking, that it's certainly making a decision to enter into an M&A deal much more, I would say, courageous. And then the third aspect, I think, is sort of the execution, sort of carrying through a deal and sort of getting hold of all the means that make that possible. And, well, we all see finance is key, isn't it? Finance is key for corporations, for the companies, and for the family businesses in the sector. Finance is key to private equity, we all know, and that is certainly another element that makes the completion of a deal difficult, sometimes even starting with that. But often this affects a deal when it's sort of in between, in a mid-stage. How does that reflect? It reflects on, well, higher abort rate. We see quite a number of deals that are somehow initiated, but they are not finalized. And ultimately, we translate that into sort of a general risk-averse context that certainly is not what a flourishing M&A market would desire. From our legal perspective, what effect we see? Well, we are asked to change. We are asked, not expressly maybe, but we perceive that the value added that we as one of the advisors on an M&A deal can bring to a client has changed a bit in the perspective. And our role has changed very much into being called to support from a legal analysis aspect the assessment, the valuation of a deal. And there are activities that are very, very traditional, very common. You know, all lawyers in a deal of this kind perform this due diligence. It have become a very standard and often neglected, and maybe too neglected type of exercise, a bit of a ticking the box. I think we were producing sort of huge books of useless information with maybe one or two pieces of something really interesting and valuable in that. What we are increasingly asked to do now is really to spot those 1, 2, 3, whatever, and bring that to the attention and to the evaluation of those that have to finally take decisions. And I mean, examples of what we do. I mean, we consider in detail in an analysis, and we actually do discuss and negotiate and try to find, of course, an agreement. Aspects that were not so important in the past. I mean, flexibility, price adjustments, circumstances, price review clauses, and market adverse changes, force majeure, or what we call market out. I mean, what is peculiar is that some of the clauses that were typical of market-driven transactions, where you had to take into account that a market event, something affected market, generally would have an impact on the deal, now are becoming much more important in private deals, right? Because I think maybe, you know, the parties, people have experienced how market changes actually may sort of burn you, even though you're not really directly on the market. These are examples. Contracts, of course, like the analysis of a contract that in the past was really to see whether a contract was, you know, valid, binding, or, you know, it could be terminated, things like that. Well, now it's, you analyze a contract in the perspective of being able to assess its attitude to changes in circumstances. And depending, of course, on the term of the contract, but even medium-term contracts are really assessed as to their ability, the ability of the clauses to adjust and protect, of course, ideally in a balanced way, the parties from changes in circumstances. So, conclusions. Will I surprise you? No. Conclusions is, again, more difficult, but market is not going to stop. And I hope Francesco will invite me next year again, just to see what has happened and see what's new. Thank you.